I did 500 laps around Interlagos with the worst camera view to use on F125, and to make it worse, I'm doing it with no assists, so wish me good luck for this challenge. So we started the challenge with obviously lots of invalid laps, but on lap 3 I managed to do the first valid lap, which put me, number 42,000 in the world. My aim for this challenge was to at least get somewhere in the top 250 for the Xbox leaderboards, as I felt more people use controller on console and would even the playing field a little bit further, rather than esport level drivers on PC using full sim rigs. On lap 10 I managed to improve once again with the default setup on the car to get a 1 minute 9.7, actually putting me 23,000th in the world and 4,300 on Xbox, which already was a great step forward, which I was extremely pleased with. On lap 28 I once again improved by a tenth and a half, getting me 14,000th in the world and 2,500 on Xbox. As I became more comfortable, I started to realise the problems I was having, and it was more focused around the curbs and predicting what the car would do. Oftentimes I would hit it at the wrong angle or take too much, and it would send me spinning, as I had no real idea of the abrasiveness of them. So the next aim was to understand the limits on each curb around the track. Throughout the whole of day 1, I started to improve here or there, slowly improving my time. By the end I achieved a 1 minute 8.965, getting me into the top 10,000 in the world and 1,800 on Xbox. I was extremely happy with that. I achieved before 100 laps on my first day doing this challenge. Although the camera angle is a pain and I have little idea to what the car is actually doing, I am surprised that I still have a decent amount of pace in the car and still optimistic about reaching our goal of the top 250. For the start of day 2 and our approach to 100 laps, I improved for the final time with the default setup on the car to improve by almost 2/10 of a second, putting us 7,500 in the world and 1,353 on the Xbox leaderboards on lap 91. After reaching lap 100, that would be the end of the default setup on the car, and the time to start using a bit faster setups, which obviously puts us more at risk of spinning out, but gives us the actual chance of putting in some decent times. And for the next laps after this change, and our guess was right, the car became extremely difficult to control, especially for a controller, and using the chase camera with little visual clues to what the car is actually doing, I ended up spinning a lot more and hardly improving over a 30 lap plus period. However, on lap 139 I managed to understand the car a bit more and improved by a couple of tenths and get into 6,300th in the world and 1,100th on Xbox. This was still way off my predictions of what I could do, and it was much more of a challenge using oversteer setups. Over the next 60 or so laps approaching lap 200 and the end of day 2, I managed to improve here or there and actually managed to get within the top 400 on Xbox and 2,500 in the world with a 1 minute 8.236, which I was actually surprised. Just little improvements can put you up the leaderboard so much, but I eventually ended the day at 280 laps on the board, over 50% of the way into the challenge and the top 4% in the world around Interlagos. I was once again rather pleased with the overall progress. Now we came into the last couple of days for this challenge, on to day 3 and coming actually to lap 300, which I had a bit of a surprise as the whole time trial game decided to break, in which I couldn't set a faster lap time, as you can see in the top right hand corner. I carried on for a few laps, but with no sign of it fixing, I then refreshed the game and started another time trial lobby. After lap 300, I started to experiment more with setups as I got to the point of serious boredom and difficulty in the challenge, as I couldn't really see myself improving that much, and for me the car didn't feel right and comfortable. Surprisingly, on lap 377, I managed to improve with some tweaks to the setup by around 3/10 of a second, which was absolutely unbelievable. However, time trial decided to break once again. It now showed my new lap time out on track, but as I went to the leaderboards, it was nowhere to be seen. I went onto the track off it again to see if it was a little bug, but with no sign of it showing, I once again had to reset time trial without my lap time saving. I ended day 3 on 410 laps, and unfortunately no lap time shown for my improvement, but a greater sense of feel with the car thanks to the setup changes. My best advice for anyone wanting to set a good lap time is to use one of the top esport driver setups, then tweak it for your preference, such as changing the downforce levels, differential or brake bias, which I did as I felt using a controller and the chase cam, I didn't have the same feeling as using a sim rig and onboard cameras. On the final day and into the final 90 laps, my aim was to avenge the lap time which was taken away from me, which may have seen me achieve my goal of the top 250 on Xbox. So today was a full-on sweat mode, no more relaxing, just straight qualifying laps every lap. In the lap 430s, I managed to improve ever so slightly, but nowhere near the 3/10 I did improve a day earlier, but good signs of improvement. As well as a few more tweaks on the setup, I felt that just that 1% more better with the car for the final laps, which was also great. However, as we started to run out of laps and approaching lap 500, I became increasingly more worn and my hands were so sore by this point, it was so hard to stay concentrated. I wanted to put qualifying laps every lap, but I just couldn't. So I decided to relax before the last 10 laps of this challenge to really give myself the best opportunity of improving once again. The last 10 laps eventually approached and it was now time to get into the top 250, and I was getting close a few times and I really felt the car could improve. And as we approached the final lap, I just couldn't improve that extra bit until we came to the final lap of this whole challenge, lap 500, in which I didn't know how, with the whole pressure of this challenge and my insane hand pain, I managed to set my best lap time of this entire challenge so far, almost getting into the 1:07 7s, improving by just short of 2/10 to achieve a 1:08.007, beating the lap time which broke the game a day earlier by almost 2/10, which ultimately put us 1,485 in the world, just over a second slower than Danny Berezny, and for the Xbox leaderboards, 204 in the world, achieving our goal on the final lap, which was absolutely unbelievable. And I was extremely pleased in what I achieved for this challenge with using the worst camera view to ever exist for F1.